The first panel debate discussed the question of whether software-defined networking, SDN, could remain open. Analyst Rohit Mehra of IDC put the issue into context and asked the panellists whether they agreed that SDN and the cloud were moving towards increased openness.
To put a strong statement out here, I think as Bigswitch, we very strongly believe in open, and I would go one step further and say an entirely closed SDN solution is actually not delivering any value to the end customer.
Panellists Arpit Joshipura from Dell and Dominic Wild from HP agreed, while Saeed Wiesel from Juniper had a slightly different take.
I think at the same time, openness needs to come with performance. And if you talk a little bit about what we've been doing from an ASIC and how we basically build systems, when I'm talking to customers, they're asking us to keep up with the growth of the internet. They're asking us to be ahead. They're talking, okay, well, the system you're right now building is actually going to run out of capacity in a few years. What are you doing beyond that? So, and this is where I think performance, speed, agility, you have to feel that, basically create that trade-off to the openness of the architecture and the openness of the systems.
Dan Pitt from the Open Networking Foundation said his organization was in favor of a choice of a number of open interfaces developed by the community.
So we are supporting protocol interfaces on the southbound side and programming interfaces on the northbound side that generally should be decided by industry experience, and open source consortia are great. Lots of innovation is great. We have an effort in the northbound interfaces area, not at this point to create a committee-defined standard, but to help the industry arrive at something that meets a lot of needs and is not controlled by a single party.
Mehra then asked how openness squared with the growing number of prefabricated racks now available.
So, I think, first of all, the reason we're doing it is because it's what customers are demanding. First thing is that the convergence of infrastructure is about a couple of things. One of them is about reducing the footprint. Convergence of that infrastructure and bringing together the fundamental hardware pieces. For instance, from the network perspective, with our virtual connect technology, for instance, we are able to reduce the footprint, eliminate massive costs in things like cabling and stuff. You can take out about 1,500 components out of a network by just using virtual connect. So reducing the footprint. Customers laugh at me when I go into them and I say, look, my goal in life here is to sell you less network. It's true. That's what I want to do, is I want to reduce the amount of network. But it's also about creating a system, and it's about creating a system that is geared towards servicing a workload and being optimized to service a workload.
Joshipura said his company had all the components, so why draw a boundary around a single box?
So there are web customers who have probably 5 times the staff that we combined have from an IT perspective. And by the way, some of them are brilliant, right? They outthink us all the time, right? So you got a very, very intelligent IT staff. You have large enterprises that also have an IT staff, but they're not quite as advanced. And then you have the mid-market and the SMB who have probably 1 or 2 people who are like, I don't want to bother with anything. Just solve this because I'm not in a networking business. My business is, flowers.com, or my business is something else. I make shoes, right? Those guys don't want to be bothered. And so there's a market that, natural market separation in who is looking at these kind of systems versus who wants the completely disaggregated and completely decoupled system. And it's a scale. And again, openness and choice is what we have to provide.
Mehra then asked about overlay networks, and most of the panel agreed this was no longer an issue because overlays return high value.